Another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast is here. Brandon, I'm Jared. Make sure you're following the show at Heel to the Face. We're still about 1 week out from Extreme Rules next Saturday night. Impact's Bound for Glory, AEW's Battle of the Belts, which will be next week. We'll talk about that for a few minutes here. And Bray Wyatt not showing up in WWE this last Friday on 9/23 at 9/23. But we did get another clue. And
one of those, what do they call them, QR codes?
And WWE has made it official, if it wasn't official enough, but they've officially made it official that they are indeed going to do something with this. This wasn't just some sort of eagle-eyed fans who caught something that meant nothing, because WWE Shop did put this past week some t-shirts on sale of the White Rabbit and the Hangman that said, "Who killed the world? He did it." And they've elaborized on Raw a little more in the sense of giving more clues. So I guess my question is, Brandon, 9/23 just gave us another clue. When do you see this thing coming to a close, the debut of Bray Wyatt or whoever it is?
I mean, the debut of Bray Wyatt,
or the return, let's say.
The reinvigorated Bray Wyatt, the reinvented Bray Wyatt. I would say he comes back. I'm gonna say Survivor Series. I think that's.
You think they're gonna drag this out for another? Let's essentially say 2 months.
Yeah, why not? I mean, they're gonna build this. Why? So you know what? The more I thought about it after we recorded, I'm like thinking to myself, why would they bring it back at a random SmackDown? That just doesn't make sense. That doesn't, like, if you're going to have somebody as big as him,
well, remember,
why would you debut him at just your average show? You do it at a pay-per-view. So the more I thought about it after our show,
you say that, but if we've learned anything over the past couple of years, is WWE holds in high regard their weekly television shows, especially SmackDown. Well, there are more eyeballs on SmackDown than there are on pay-per-views. And Fox pays more money than Peacock probably does.
I agree with that, but from another perspective, you have to think from many viewpoints. I would say, why would you have somebody the caliber of Bray Wyatt come back on a television show? Why wouldn't you have him come back at a pay-per-view? That's my point. And I thought about that, and that's kind of the way I felt. I was like, you know what, like after the show, I was thinking about.
You felt it after 9/23. You're saying,
yeah, especially after 9/23. I was like, that sucked. I purposely, I was watching other things, and I looked at the clock. It was like 9:15, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna flip it over a few minutes early. And I waited till 9:30, and then I was checking Twitter, and I saw Twitter was like, well, I guess 9/23 was a waste, and it was a waste. So I just turned it back. I didn't watch I went back and watched the show later.
Nothing happened. SmackDown essentially was a show that.
But hey, we got to debut this. Since the last time we recorded
on Raw, we got a debut. Yes,
it was a
return again, not a debut, a return.
Well, yeah, I mean it's. I mean, now are they now calling her Mrs. Wrestling? Is that what they call her? We're referring to Candice LeRae, the wife of Johnny Wrestling, Johnny Gargano, and the mother of Quill. I think is their son's name, Quill. So I got to tell you, she looks great after having a baby. That's she looked great. Like, I know a lot of times, especially like you'll see like a Becky Lynch, you've seen other superstars when they come back from having a baby, they usually cover their midsection up because obviously that there's a lot of things going on there, of course, and. She wore her normal attire, and
they normally look like they're wrestling in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, exactly. But no, she looked great. I mean, she was in great shape. I thought she did a great job in the match. I always like that swinging neck breaker out the top rope. That's a very unique maneuver. So it's great to see Mrs. Wrestling back, and I got to tell you that the commentating team on Raw there did a great job of hyping her up. So that was cool.
I think one of the best things going right now on Monday Night Raw is the continued storyline with Dexter Lumis and The Miz. I think that's probably the highlights on Monday Night Raw.
Oh, 100%. It was when they had that backstage shot of the goalie, which was Dexter Lumis behind Miz. You see it for a second, and it's like, you see all the was it Miz security or whatever the hell is he named them for the night. They were all taken out. They were all piled on the ground. And then Miz is kind of looking around. And then you look in the background, and you're like, I wonder if Dexter Lumis is in there. And then they kind of zoom in as you're thinking it. And you're like, oh, he is in there. And Miz, of course, being the actor that he is, he sold it very well. And I got to tell you, this this is a nice approach to bringing somebody on board. And in this case, they really are debuting on Raw because they never were on Raw before they got their legs cut underneath them when they got let go during the cuts when they were in NXT. So Dexter Lumis, they're doing the right thing on this. I don't mind it being dragged out as far as it has. So I'm okay with it. And then, on the other side of it too, I got to ask you about Sami Zayn. So you know me.
The honorary use.
The honorary use. I will say this, and I've been very critical of Sami over the years. I have to say this is by far the most entertaining Sami Zayn I've ever seen. I actually kind of like him right now, and I usually don't. I've never really been a fan of Sami Zayn. I know he's got good work in the ring, but I just never got what a lot of the indie wrestling community saw with him. I thought he was okay. I always thought Kevin Owens was the better wrestler, but the stuff that he's doing with the bloodline right now is some of the best stuff, not only for Sami Zayn and from my viewpoint of Sami Zayn, but also in the business. I love this whole storyline that he's the honorary use. And just for a second, when they were having that segment where you got Roman saying, "Take off the shirt," and it's take off the shirt. And of course, I love the fact that Jey Uso, out of the whole bloodline, doesn't like Sami still. And that makes it fun. That makes it fun because Jimmy and Sami got a secret handshake going, and when he's trying to, and then you see the tribal chief Roman Reigns going up and saying to Sami, "Take off your shirt," and then Jey goes over and just rips that right off. The best part about that was when Roman Reigns delivered the news that he got his own shirt that says the honorary Uce. And if you saw the camera zoom in on Jey Uso's reaction, that was freaking gold. That segment was fantastic.
Yeah, I think this is definitely going to continue through the Survivor Series because I could definitely see that him being a member of the Bloodline going to the Survivor Series as in that War Games match that we're pretty much all but assured was probably going to happen.
Let me ask you this: Do you ever see Jey Uso finally liking Sami? You think this is going to continue for a while? Because I kind of like it this way. He's like 85% of the group likes him, and then you got Jey that's just I don't like this guy.
I mean, you have to have that contention because Sami Zayn is the odd man out, and you have to have that feeling of could this end at any time. You can't really have, I guess, this just be a certainty. I mean, this is a heel faction.
As much as they are over.
Yes, as much as they're over, it's still a heel faction presented. So, yeah, you got to have that mystery under the surface a little bit. For sure.
Okay. You're right. I think they do continue it for a bit. To me, it's some of the most fun I've seen. And doesn't matter if it's WWE, AEW, you name the wrestling show. This is some of the most fun I've seen on a show in a long time, this whole story right now.
We're leading up to next week. Extreme Rules doesn't look like it's going to really have any part. I mean, I don't see any Bloodline matches at all in Extreme Rules, and don't really know because we just had those the tag team championship match just a few weeks ago, or this past week, I think. So I don't see the Bloodline really being involved in Extreme Rules at all. I think the main event of that is probably going to be something to do with Edge and Finn Balor. You got the women's championship on the line.
That's that's a name we got to talk about, Finn Balor. I think.
Do you like AJ Styles giving him the bird this week when they're trying to bring AJ Styles into the Judgment Day and remember and reminisce about their Bullet Club days, but AJ Styles is not about that.
No, I don't think he's going to join Judgment Day. I just can't see it. I don't think it's the right thing for him at this point. I will tell you though, I think having Finn Balor as the leader of the Judgment Day this just shows you the stock that they have in Finn Balor at this point. With I would call it the revised regime without Vince McMahon in there. Finn Balor, I think, you're gonna see in the next year or so. He's gonna have a major push, and I have a feeling that we're gonna see some gold around his waist in the not so distant future. Him versus Edge at Extreme Rules could possibly be the main event. I think going against Edge, that's definitely a big push right there. Oh, 100%. And the big thing is, do you put him over Edge? That's the thing. Do you do that? And I mean,
I guess it depends on what the plan is for Edge. I mean, I know his career is winding down.
Yeah, well,
but what is the plan for him? Is this going to be his last WrestleMania this upcoming year?
It's possible. I will say this too. There's another piece of the puzzle that I really like about Judgment Day, and I think this is Damian Priest's best work. I think just the way he talks with that growl in his voice, that evil demonic like he fits that kind of that gothy, like that dark, like he just has that great character about him. Like he could, and no joke, he could play in horror films with that voice. Like he has that delivery. He could be in those type of movies, like those very dark, even like a vampire kind of movie. He could do stuff like that.
Blade 6.
I mean, you're certainly right about that. I mean, I think right now, I think this is also some of his best work, and we're getting to see his personality shine a little bit more than we were accustomed to when a certain McMahon was kind of running things up until somewhat recently.
WWE Royal Rumble tickets went on sale this week. They had the pre-sale on Wednesday. They officially go on sale on Friday, but it looks like, from all accounts, it's going to be pretty much sold out by Friday. I don't know if they're going to put more tickets on sale. I know they play games like that sometimes where it's a limited amount during the pre-sale. They're only going to use the half Alamo Dome thing. But the difference is here, the last two times they've been to the Alamo Dome, both in 1997, I think in 2017, they did actually use the full place, because when it comes to stadiums, it is on the smaller side, if you will. It's not a 90,000 seat dome. I think it holds, 50,000 for football.
I think it's a 55,000.
So they're only going to be using the half configuration there, and tickets that they put on sale sold out pretty quickly, which is kind of surprising because, obviously tickets sold out and went on sale and were taken up really quickly because people are very excited for the Triple H run Royal Rumble coming up. This is, a lot of anticipation for this Royal Rumble, more so this upcoming year than in past years. And again, in past years when they've used the full configuration, you thought they would do it again this year because of that excitement and anticipation for this being the Triple H run Royal Rumble. So as of right now, they're using like the half configuration. I will say one thing I hate so much, so as somebody who attends a lot of these events in the half configuration, is it great for the TV audience? They don't know the difference. But for the crowds in attendance, it is so awful to have the wrestlers come out of the locker room with their back to 99% of the audience. We saw this at SummerSlam this past year when they came out to come to the ring. The wrestlers are looking straight ahead at darkness, at a section of the stadium that is completely, the TV side essentially full, the non-TV side empty. And if you go to like a Raw or SmackDown, it is a little weird when you see them, let's say a not well-attended Raw or SmackDown where only the TV side is full and you see them cutting promos to nobody while the whole crowd is sitting behind them. So it's weird when you go to like a Royal Rumble or a SummerSlam like we saw this past year, where they sold the TV side only and had from end zone to end zone completely empty on the other side of the stadium, so that the whole crowd is staring straight off at an empty part of the stadium.
I just like, now that as you mentioned that, I wonder if you could do something where you could almost block off I've never been to Alamo Dome, so I can visualize it in my head. But could there be a way where
there is a way to make a path? So when they were in St. Louis a couple years ago, WCW ran a pay-per-view from that same dome back in the 90s. And if they wanted to make an elaborate WrestleMania-sized entrance, they could. I mean, think about it like this: when Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, behind those stages is nobody. They're in front of, areas that are blocked off. They could easily put the set right there coming towards the people. Think about it just essentially, like I said, when you watch a Raw or SmackDown, there's the crowd, there's the ring, and there's the entranceway placed where there's nobody sitting. The wrestlers come towards the crowd. So you could still sell the dome where you just sell the one part of it and have the wrestlers essentially come out at the 50-yard line. And you could, and that way you could have quite an elaborate setup as well. You could have a big stage. I mean, you could set it up the same you do WrestleMania or any event. You just push it in further. I don't know why they do it that way. I think they don't want to show any empty spaces because obviously if you're showing, but they do it for Monday Night Raw all the time. They do it for Monday Night Raw where they're coming from a side of the arena where no one sits. Hence, they build the stage there. I don't know why they don't build stages. That's, I guess, the thing. We've seen with SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, even with Clash at the Castle. I mean, they don't build stages for these events, and I don't understand why.
Why not with the Alamo Dome? Why not curtain it all off? Where you're not using and make that back area where it's where how it's like a football field layout, obviously.
Yeah, that's where the locker rooms are and stuff.
You make something back there, even if it's a long walk from you have to kind of go around all the way around to get to somewhere.
Yes, they could set it. I think at the end of the day, the one issue is they just, for these events, don't like putting stages. SummerSlam hasn't had a stage at a SummerSlam. I mean, outside of the COVID year, because SummerSlam that was in Las Vegas or SummerSlam this year in Nashville, no stage. Royal Rumble the last couple of years, no stage. They just kind of come out of the tunnel like a regular sporting event. And I understand, Raw and SmackDowns. What I'm talking is Raw and SmackDowns obviously don't have grand stages. They have their tradition. But even those for Raw every week is a stage. I don't know why for these big time pay-per-views like Royal Rumble and SummerSlam, or like I just said, Clash at the Castle, they have them coming out, through a locker room tunnel that's very bare bones, very minimal. I don't know why that's the setup for these big shows instead of having, even when Royal Rumble was at Alamo Dome in 2017 and they still didn't do unique sets, they still had the Raw set at one end of the arena and had them come out that way. And that's actually quite a long ways because they had them coming out they were using the whole place and had them come out at an end zone. And that's a big deal for a Royal Rumble because every 30 seconds or every 90 seconds, another wrestler comes out. So that's a long walk for them to come out. So they could definitely do more. I don't know why, like I said, that they don't do that and they have them all come out at the baseball stadiums. They have them come out of the dugouts with obviously everybody sitting in the baseball configuration. So if you're staring off into center field, there's nothing and no one. I don't know, WWE, as a fan of somebody who goes to these events, it's very hard to get a ticket in where you can actually see the wrestlers because they come out at eye level, through the crowd. They all come out it's without being elevated, without being kind of spotlight. They come out a narrow way.
I don't necessarily dislike it so much, though. I mean, I get it. I wasn't there for when John Cena came back at Madison Square Garden, where he came through the little tunnel there. That was
that's
cool.
A little bit different because Madison Square Garden's a smaller, and that's kind of how that setup works. But coming out of, and you've attended enough football games or basketball games, coming out of the tunnel that is not elevated, that is not elaborate, that is not a stage. It's hard, especially too when they come out with their backs.
I mean, it takes away from it. I get it. I think it's WWE's way of just not wanting to build an elaborate setup,
which is strange because
especially for a big show.
That's what I'm saying. It's very strange that they can't. I'm not asking for WrestleMania caliber pyro here, but you can't put the Raw set.
Speaking of the sets, supposedly they might be doing some overhauling with the sets and the title belts. They might be doing some changes
I have heard that. One thing, I don't know if you caught on WWE Shop recently. I just saw this past week, but they're starting to sell some championship belts and some other configured belts for sports teams. They had a unique, un-WWE related New York Yankees belt. They were selling on WWE Shop this past week. That wasn't like the WWE Championship with the nameplates. But and they did have a WWE Championship with Tennessee football nameplates for sale. And then they had just a actual New York Yankees belt. Well, I don't know.
I could see why for the Tennessee one because of the recent appearance on College Game Day from Tennessee by the Tennessee alum Bianca Belair. So that's part of where I can see.
Yeah, the Yankees one I don't really understand so much. So
well, I think the
are
plan,
they kind of cashing on Aaron Judge? Are they selling that?
I think
because it doesn't say Aaron Judge or anything like that. But I think they're trying to, be like, hey, Aaron Judge is going to wear. And I essentially think that they're trying to get ahead of it because even though it is un-WWE related, they're trying to be like, hey, even though that belt says nothing WWE on it, we made it and you can buy it from us.
Yeah, it's how it is. It's always a money grab with WWE. You should know this by now.
Yeah. Because I feel like maybe some people are starting, sports are starting to be like, okay, when we want to hold a belt for winning a championship, we don't necessarily want it to be the WWE Championship with our nameplates on it. We want our own completely different thing. but WWE is still like, well, we make belts. There's nothing. We're really good at doing that. We're really good at making belts. So let us make the belt. We won't put our name on it anywhere. But hey, we'll also want to sell it.
So I know we're about 20 minutes in and we haven't even touched AEW. I mean, is there a lot to talk about on AEW this week?
AEW this week, Hurricane Ian, we were talking off air, is being rumored for some dips in viewership, which I think is stupid.
That to me is again, we talked about this last week. To me, it's these beat writers, quote unquote journalists that, again, they have their lips pressed on the butt cheeks of Tony Khan. Why do they like? If this was WWE, they'd be like, oh yeah, they're just not great. Like they wouldn't spin it like, oh, Hurricane Ian. They're trying to make every excuse for the dips for AEW. Here's the thing: a lot of people that are watching the Hurricane coverage, at least from my perspective, I'm tuning in just for a few moments at a time, just to see what's going on, see where it's at, see what the damage is, and then I don't sit there for 2 hours watching.
There's always this. I mean, there's always competition. There's always news.
Yes.
There's always something going on. There's always a State of the Union. There's always a hurricane. There's always some big political thing. There's always a big sitcom debut. So AEW, I mean, unless there is something that I think, and I don't think that this is something extra extraordinary.
I got a good idea.
I think this is something for sure, and maybe it costs a person or two. And Tony Khan even said that this week's AEW TV tapings were voluntary for the wrestlers because of issues with Hurricane Ian.
Well, they did say a portion of the staff couldn't make it in because of the travel issues.
So if you want to say that the dip is because the talent wasn't there and that the show wasn't as good, I think that's a more viable explanation.
Yeah, but you just can't blame it strictly. You have to word it a certain way. Like, of course, they're going to word it a way to make it as an excuse. I was just thinking too, wouldn't it be kind of cool because they do have these interesting names for the hurricanes? What about a Hurricane Helms? That'd be WWE-esque.
Yeah, I mean, if we have enough hurricanes. I was lucky enough. I was actually down in Tampa, Florida this past week, unrelated. That was a planned trip, and I got out of there before the hurricane took place.
You did, man. You timed it out, and I got.
I mean, I didn't time it out. It was just it was planned for that weekend. I imagine though, if it was planned for this weekend, that would have sucked. Well, because I probably wouldn't have been able to go.
Well, you know, it's funny. My dad and my sister are actually supposed to be going to Orlando this weekend. I don't know how that's going to go. We'll see how that pans out.
Yes, I've never actually been down in Florida. I mean, I don't go that much anyways, but I've never been down there when there's ever anything been close to weather on the news. And it was kind of interesting going out to eat on Sunday when everybody, like the waitress and the staff, were all like pretty much, they don't know you're a tourist. So they're like, hey, whatever your plans are, telling everybody to be safe and, take care. And we hope to see you back here when the storm's over. And, it was weird because, I mean, I was leaving, but
you're like, yeah, I'm going back north. I'm going back to New York.
And that is, it makes you feel good because never in the north, here in the north, they're always talking about, why don't we live down south? So it was nice to be like jealous that we were leaving.
Here's the thing too. And I think this is just the New York thing for us or just the Northeast thing. I'll take snow. I'm good. Snow doesn't bother me. I'll live with the snow versus the hurricanes and tornadoes. That's just how I look at it. Now, I do want to get back to AEW real quick. Not much noteworthy stuff, at least from my perspective.
Well, we were talking about how Tony Khan, what a great boss he is, letting staff stay home. And one person who definitely thinks he's a great boss is the newly acquired Saraya.
Well, yeah, now it's Saraya.
Yeah,
she.
Make sure you say it right. She did actually say that.
She put that on Twitter. You know what? I'm just going to call you Paige from WWE. That's where I'm going at this point. And then, why do you have to cut a promo dissing your old company when they paid you for 4 years and you did nothing? You got a big fat paycheck to do essentially nothing. So if anything, you shouldn't say a damn negative thing about WWE. As much as you maybe you weren't happy with the fact that they weren't using you, they were being safe with the medicals and everything, because we know her medicals aren't great, but she's cleared now in AEW apparently.
Well, I don't even think, too, as you can tell from her spot this past week on Dynamite, it doesn't look like she's going to be hopping in the ring, I guess. Anything. It still looks like she's coming from a managerial backstage role, kind of setting up the title picture.
She signed a 3-year contract, so I mean, I'm expecting some wrestling in the next 3 years.
I'm expecting her to be Vicky Guerrero, Brandy Rhodes. I'm expecting her to be
she's much better than that, though.
The Sonya Deville of the women's division.
She's much better than that, though. That's a disservice to Paige because we know what Paige can do in the ring.
We know what she can do in the ring, but I mean, we saw her on Dynamite this past week. She had more chatting about the women's division than she was. She didn't pretty much indicate anywhere that she was hopping in the division herself from a competitive standpoint.
Yeah, it's I don't know what it is, but like I just feel like it wasn't that much great stuff going on in AEW this week. It was
we did learn that
so
Jericho beat Bandito, and we did learn that in 2 weeks he'll be defending the Ring of Honor Championship again against Bryan Danielson at the Coca-Cola Coliseum in Toronto on Dynamite. That should be a very good and interesting match.
Yeah, Jericho still can go. So I mean, and if he's in the ring
he can't sing right now though because he had a concert scheduled for this Saturday in Syracuse that he backed out of.
Well, okay, hold on. We gotta pump the brakes on that one. We don't want to be the reporters like the reporters that have their lips on the butt cheeks of Tony Khan. He will be coming to Syracuse. He's going to have a makeup date in April. I don't know the exact date in April. I saw it somewhere, and I know you mentioned it before.
April 15th.
There you go. So Jared knows. So April 15th. So anyone that's listening to this that's locally here in Central New York, Fozzy will not be here coming up here this upcoming, what is it, October?
Saturday night.
It was supposed to be Saturday night. But he will be making it up in 6 months from now.
But I guess it is strange because, yes, he's having throat issues. But I mean, he's still on obviously wrestling. He's not under the weather on bed rest or anything like that. He just defended the Ring of Honor Championship against Bandito.
But is he
this past Wednesday night?
But is he? I mean, he's not singing, so it's like he's not exactly straining the voice. So he's giving himself some vocal rest. He's still going to put some good matches in a match with Bryan Danielson.
And credit to AEW this past week. It was originally announced that they were going to put their Battle of the Belts next Saturday night on a Saturday night like they typically do, but they backtracked and it will be on Friday night, not to go against WWE Extreme Rules, and it's going to happen live, which is at 11 o'clock because Rampage is going to be from 10 to 11, and then Battle of the Belts from 11 to midnight, which is very late, obviously, because it's going to take place from Washington, D.C., which is in the Eastern time zone. So if you're going to Rampage, it's going to be like going to a UFC event because essentially none of the action is going to kick off until about 9 o'clock.
Yeah, have fun with that. I'll be in bed by then.
Of course you will, old man. I mean, I'd like to go on a Friday night. I mean, I'll be driving home from Bound for Glory. So they're going up against Bound for Glory, which will be from probably 8 to 11 next Friday night. So they're going against their own essential partners that they used to work with Impact instead of going against WWE. They're pretty much acknowledging, we like Impact and we work very closely with them, but we'd rather go against them and hurt a small company.
Are they really going against them though? Because does anybody really watch Rampage?
Well, what do you mean? Are you saying is Bound for Glory going to be?
I think it's not like
you'd rather watch Bound for Glory than Battle of the Belts and Rampage. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, I would. To me it's not.
Me too.
To me, it's more so like the matches. The quality matches are still going to be good on both sides.
It's a pay-per-view versus the television.
It's a pay-per-view, and it's also a timing thing too. Like if you're going to have a normal standard, like I can watch pay-per-view and be done by like 11 instead of just getting into it at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. I'm good. I mean, you sold me.
And you know what? I mean, I guess good for them because Bound for Glory should be over around 11 o'clock. So Rampage is going against Bound for Glory, but the Battle of the Belts is not so much.
So I mean, for a wrestling fan, if you're one of those that you're a night owl and you're up late, I mean, it's probably good because you can watch wrestling from like 8 o'clock at night until like 1 in the morning.
And the reason it is so late is actually not so much because they didn't want to go against Bound for Glory. They didn't want to go against SmackDown. So that shows 2 instances just next weekend that they did not want to go against WWE. They did not want to do it on Friday against SmackDown. They pushed it later in the night, and they didn't want to do it Saturday at all against WWE Extreme Rules.
Isn't that interesting how that works?
Tony Khan acknowledging that he does not want to go against the WWE.
He's saying it without saying it, everybody.
So that's going to do it for this week's edition of the show. Next week, Bound for Glory and Extreme Rules on pay-per-view. We'll talk that and anything else that happens in the world of WWE. Last chance, is it Bray Wyatt that's coming out? Whether it's Extreme Rules or whatever, or somebody else. He's still sticking with Bray Wyatt? Not Aleister Black?
It's Bray Wyatt.
It's not Adam Rose?
Bray Wyatt Survivor Series. Survivor Series Bray Wyatt. That's what I'm sticking with it. So it's Bray Wyatt Survivor Series. You're not seeing them anytime soon.
It's not Aleister Black. All right.
No.
For Brandon, I'm Jared. This has been another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast.